I adore indie games. Being a former game developer myself and having released a game on Steam, I know of the trials and tribulations that go into the process. And the mere fact that a small team or even a single person manages to complete a project and release a completed game is awesome. And whilst I do like indie games, I have a special place in my heart for Norwegian indie games. Call it national pride if you will, because that's really what it is. And it should come as no shock that Perfectly Paranormal is one of my favorite developers ever. Seeing as I have even gone so far as to speedrun their game, Helheim Hassle. Helheim Hassle is however the second game in a trilogy of games that are narratively tied together. Today we go back to the beginning of the story by checking out the first game in the trilogy, Manual Samuel. And like all great stories, it all started
last Tuesday, where a hopeless young freeloader called Sam.
This game opens up with our protagonist Samuel, hereby referred to as Sam, and his girlfriend about to celebrate her birthday. Or I should say that is what should have happened had Sam actually remembered that today is her birthday. Instead, Sam, being the rich, arrogant douchebag that he is, manages to say the most obnoxious rich guy statement,
"Things just work out for me, baby,"
and get met with the most obvious rebuttal in the form of a bottle to the face. This is where we pick up the control of Sam and must manually manage to straighten our spine and manually walk out of the cafe to try and fix our relationship. But since I am now in control of Sam's actions, I decide to try and fix his bad behavior by actually paying for the coffee with a name no one can pronounce. And while I'm at it, I throw ludicrous amounts of money at the man named Tony as a tip, paying forward the future business owners of the world and paying for the first trophy of this journey.
Holy feces!
It is now time to rush after our soon-to-be ex, but not before scaring a child and get coffee thrown in our face, teaching us that we need to manually blink in order to see clearly. Finally, we make it to the door and can rush towards our goal, only to be met with a septic tank at the worst possible time, traveling at an average speed of 90 km per hour, leaving everyone a puking mess and us 8 different types of dead. To no one's surprise, Sam ends up in hell. And seeing as going the opposite way last time turned into a trophy, I decided to do the same here, where I met with hell's answer for the most common Norwegian phenomena. Only instead of bus for train, it is now bus for boat. Oh, the absolute horror. Going the correct way, we're introduced to one of the horsemen of the apocalypse. Ever so menacing. Death? Trying to do a kickflip on a skateboard? Huh. Not the activity I thought they were doing down here in hell, but oh well. What do I know? After seeing some shiny piece of paper in our pockets and identifying them as shreds of life, the most valuable currency in hell, Death offers us a chance of a second life for the low cost of all the shreds and surviving 24 hours in a challenge of his choosing. After having checked out hell to see if it's worth staying in, and seeing as we would have to work if we had stayed here, we decide to take Death up on his offer and hurl our shreds at him, but remembering to keep one for ourselves. We are alive again! More or less. Unfortunately, this does mean that our dear Sam has to actually do stuff. Like breathing, brushing our teeth, taking a leak, which he manages to do without spilling anything on himself, might I add.
Sam pees perfectly.
Taking a shower, going to the left in order to explore again, getting dressed, both wearing pants, a shirt and shoes, before finally being able to walk perfectly down the stairs. Instead of just hurling himself down like a mad lad. Before going off to work though, we decided to get a quick game of Flappy Rooster into our schedule. You can probably date this game release date if you understand which game this is supposed to reference. Doesn't seem like it will boot up properly though, so we keep hitting it a bit until this happens. I'm sure it'll be fine. Before we can make it to the door though, we need to eat some breakfast and more importantly, get some coffee. So actually managing to drink it and not just throw it in our faces is surprisingly hard. But we got it on the last attempt as we were almost out of cups. Finally, we are out the door and soon at our car. Don't mind the floppy rooster in the background. Just keep on going. Shh, nothing to see here. Unfortunately, in order to get to work, we have to learn something of a lost art. We have to learn how to drive with a stick. Luckily, I've been driving manually with a stick for as long as I have been able to drive, so this should not be a problem for me at all. Though, when I usually drive, there are a lot less grandmas out and about that is walking in the middle of the street. The challenge here is trying to get up to 150 kilometers per hour, at the same time as we have to avoid the grandmas. Because if it looks like we're about to hit one, death will break for us, just like my external examiner had to break for me when I had my final driving test to get my license. Luckily, no grandmas were harmed during the recording of this platinum journey, and I get rewarded with my trophy.
Are lying dead on the ground. This is when
On the road, we meet War, another one of the horsemen of the apocalypse. She has been blasting away at a local gang war, and we have to escort her to the metro. Some more driving, blasting, and grandma slalom later, we deliver War at the metro before heading off to work. Sam's luck just keep on getting better as the hood of the car flies up, blocking the view and making us drive straight into a pedestrian. Not a grandma though, we didn't harm those yet. Not wanting part of any more shenanigans, we try to rush right, only for the game to finally be done with our bullshit and puts up an invisible wall for us. Going back with our tail between our legs, Death wants our last shred of life to resurrect the man we hit. Not really wanting to part with it just yet, we tried to avoid blinking.
5 minutes later.
But the game keeps on existing.
1 hour later.
So eventually we have to give in after getting another hashtag of course, which is needed for a trophy later on in the game.
1 eternity later.
The man is resurrected, condemned to slapping his salmon 57 times in 24 hours, and we're finally off to work. Strutting into RoboCorp like we own the place, which we kinda do, we have to get a keycard as we have forgotten it for the 100th time this month. Unfortunately, living manually also means talking manually. Luckily, I have taught for years at this point and I've picked up a few tips and tricks here and there, so of course I end up getting the trophy for speaking perfectly.
you are a wordsmith, Sam.
Of course, sir.
It is here we are met with a familiar foe, the stairs. We conquered it massively when we walked down them earlier. Going up them, however, turned out to be a different story.
Taking his keycard up the stairs. That's the real challenge.
After having finally managed to get up all the stairs, we are exhausted and tired from this already long day. Luckily, RoboCorp offers plenty of coffee, and after tossing some in our face to wake us up, we also take a sip for our second coffee of the day. We try to have a productive day of Flappy Rooster at work, but our secretary so rudely interrupts us and sends us to our father, the owner of the company, who has the audacity to insinuate that we are lazy at work, and sends us to the storage room as a lithium inserter, whatever the hell that means. It turns out that whatever the hell that means is that we have to work with a very dangerous material that can turn robots super intelligent. Luckily, this is our first day of doing proper work, so what can actually go wrong? I would like to answer nothing. I really do. But we have a companion named Death following us around that is obsessed with doing kickflips. So he kicks a flip so bad that it breaks the pipes, spewing lithium everywhere and turning the robots into Prime Ultron. Stuck in a room with an army of robots outside is unfortunate for all. But there is a detail about Sam that we haven't learned yet, and that is the fact that he is a spitter. So taking a big sip of water, we short-circuit the locking mechanism and can escape into a board meeting, where it turns out I lied. One grandma was harmed in the making of this platinum journey, The only person that has ever done something manually in years tragically dies right then and there. God sure works in mysterious ways. Anyways, we volunteer to stop the mess Death so beautifully made for us, and by volunteering I mean Death volunteers us for it. Almost like he wants me to die or something. In order to stop this wave of rampaging robots, we have to step into a robot of our own, that we of course have to control manually. This means walking, shooting, hitting and shielding, all in an attempt to take down every robot we see. Some come rushing at us, and if we're not quick enough, they will run past us, meaning that we have a missable trophy to look out for here. In fact, we have two, because wouldn't you know, being the helpful billionaire that we are, we have paid forward a small up-and-coming business, as Tony has opened up his own cafe. And being the good, helpful billionaire that we are, we blow it up, so that he can feel the joy of starting again from the bottom, and also collecting the insurance money.
Curls a few rounds at Tony's Cafe, like the good old days.
Shortly after, we see our final robot and take it out, saving the day for everyone. Or so we think. There is one robot remaining, the baddest of them all, the maid bot. And it is heading towards the orphanage. This fight is pretty interesting. And spoiler alert, we have to be back for it later on, where it will put up more of a fight than it does now. Because luckily for us, the rooster decides to stop flapping and come crashing down, blowing up the Maybot in the process. The orphanage is... oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
300 orphans go to heaven.
Which absolutely does not cause any problems at all. We have a panic attack. We finally see Satan and he is pissed, and that means Death is in some deep feces. And we can finally return home after a very stressful day. Luckily, it has almost been 24 hours, so all we need to do is make it home, hop on a computer, whip up some YouTube, subscribe to NPO, and also like the video, and we will be in the clear. At least, that would have been my plan, but unfortunately, War shows up, and she has to take over Death's job now that he is in jail. We tried to plead our case, but we are only met with a business end of a shotgun for our troubles. There is only one small problem though. We are out of shreds of life. Death took our last one to resurrect that guy earlier on. So we also get thrown in hell jail by the coziest guards you have ever seen. After a heartfelt reunion with Death and a messed up plan later, we rip some cozy guard in half and take over his body. Yeah, this violent turn really caught me off guard as well. Pun intended. After manually fighting off all the guards, we come face to face with Satan. His boss fight is a combination of all we've learned so far. We need to walk, swing a sword, do the splits, blow on his warm sword, and try to talk him out of killing us again. It all seems hopeless when it happens. It finally happens. Death is able to do a kickflip. A kickflip so spectacular Satan must stare in awe. And one monologue later about how he has never been able to do it, we smack him on the head. Being this close to Death sends Satan to Hell Hospital, and as we are being resurrected, we demand Death to bring back all the dead orphans, and as he reluctantly agrees, we finish off the game. And we did so without skipping
Last
a
Wednesday,
glorious
for a
cutscene.
sort of hopeful young man named Sam.
And that brings us over to the second part of the journey, the cleanup and speedrun portion. This will consist of going back to previous chapters and unlock all the miscellaneous trophies we might have missed, like blinking a total of 2,000 times.
Doors now. Clever boy.
This happened while we were doing chapter 3 again, which is a setup chapter for later missions. Because as we get dressed, we make sure to split jump our way past our shoes, starting our journey into becoming a hipster. Also on our way, we make sure to be as efficient as possible in order to finish the chapter without breathing more than 15 times. Something we managed to do in style. After some reckless driving, our hipster journey is complete as we show up to work without shoes on.
Oh, after I blew my
The fun
nose
part of the
off-
cleanup section is to get all the hashtags in the game. You have seen them popping up here and there throughout the video, and they are a collectible of sort that doesn't really do anything. But you can get them for various things like blowing up all the houses during the robot uprising, or for just literally watching a cutscene. The final hashtag we need though goes perfectly with the last miscellaneous trophy we need, as we go back to the first chapter and skip our death cutscene for some peak comedy, which is both the first cutscene we skip and the last hashtag we need.
In this part, Sam gets hit by a truck the truck driver throws up, which, by the way, is hilarious. And we pan all the way to hell.
Next up is the speedrunning section, where we have to beat the gold times in all time trials, which means playing the entire of, or parts of, Chapter 3 till 8. Chapter 3, 4, 5 and 6 goes by without any big problems. Sometimes I had to do a second run through as I got a silver or bronze my first time, but they were fairly easy to get through. The same cannot be said for Chapter 7 or 8. Chapter 7 is of course the robot uprising, and there are plenty of time sinks here. A mistimed missile, careless shooting resulting in having to fix a robot, and of course the boss fight at the end. If I was careless early on, I would not even make it to the boss as I lost all my health, which adds a lot of extra time to the run. After getting a few bronze and silver runs, I ended up just resetting if the run up to the boss weren't almost flawless. It took forever, but soon I had learned all the patterns, both for the lesser robots and for the boss fight, and the penultimate gold trophy was mine.
Yeah!
That left the final chapter, which saw us go through all the guards and then through Satan. Luckily the guards weren't a big issue here, as there is a walking strat you can do, which makes all of them lumped together at the end of the path. The Satan fight, however, was really annoying, and I was doing plenty of stupid mistakes. It could be speaking badly, missing a split, or blocking too late. So for my second clear time, I ended up only getting a bronze. So unfortunately, no triple pop by getting gold on the first attempt. It gets even worse though, as there won't even be a double pop, as the next attempt gave me a silver clear time. It took some time, but I finally had memorized all the patterns and I could split, walk, hit, talk and headbutt for the gold trophy. That leaves one trophy, and it is for finishing the game in co-op. Usually that could pose a problem I could probably solve by just using 2 controllers and beating the game again. However, I didn't want to get the platinum like that. Like I said, I love Norwegian indie games and I wanted to share that joy with someone else. Finally, years of preparations would come to fruition as I invited my little sister on this journey. You see, I've done my brotherly duty and taught her how to be a gamer. I mentioned in my Spiritfarer video how I bought her the game and that she loved it. I have made her fall in love with Paper Mario, and we have finished It Takes Two together. So this will be a breeze. And to give her a test, I left her with some of the, shall we say, tougher challenges. We would each control one leg and one arm. I would have the role of breathing out, and she would breathe in. I would turn the character and control the spine, and she would get the lovely task of controlling Sam speaking. I'm sure this won't cause any problems at all. After tipping tone again, we are off to a great start as we have some problems coordinating our walking and almost choking on our toothbrush. But we quickly get going, and after my sister threw some coffee in our face before being able to drink it, we suddenly have finished 3 chapters already. Like brother like sister. After cruising to work, we learned that my sister is a proper wordsmith as well, getting us into the building and getting us a cup of coffee on our first try. And after some initial problems with the lithium, we managed to create a robot uprising together. All that remains are the two hardest chapters. But chapter 7 Oh, that is unfortunate. We witnessed our first crash, something that is hopefully fixed in a new upgraded version that recently came out for the game. Anyways, back in the game, we somewhat slowly make our way through chapter 7 before only chapter 8 stands between us and a platinum trophy. And here the nerves get to my sister. Because we are here for a good 30 minutes trying to annoy Satan, it turns out my sister isn't as big a wordsmith as I thought. Probably final boss nerve showing up, but suddenly it clicked. Doing the splits, coordinating the blocks perfectly, headbutting the angry goat, giving us the opportunity for her to plead our case, making a big enough distraction for Death to hit his kickflip, and for us to hit Satan one final time. And finally, the dream team had done it. We have beaten Manuel Samuel in co-op, each of us controlling half of Sam. So I want to say a big warm thank you to my wonderful little sister and tell her, good job Sams, because holy feces, we got ourselves a platinum. And so a short but sweet platinum journey comes to an end. The game is pretty short, but is also the perfect length. It explored all of the gameplay features just long enough that they didn't overstay their welcome. I had a blast playing the first game in the Tuesday trilogy, and we can see the Perfectly Paranormal identity perfectly in this experience. The second game is Helheim Hassle, that I already had the platinum for. The final game in the trilogy, The Holy Gosh Dawn, released late last year, and I have something planned for that later on. But before we can get to that one, we're gonna get through the final game in the Ratchet & Clank trilogy. So while you wait for that one, you can press the video on the left and see how I got the platinum for Dark Souls 1 and 2 other games in the same video. Or the video on the right, which is a video the algorithm recommends for you, so it's bound to be good. Anyways, I have rambled long enough. Remember I love you all, and bye!